Hey, you over there. Yeah, I see you. You're thinking about starting your own podcast, aren't you? Well, if you haven't heard about Anchor by Spotify, it's the easiest way to make a podcast with everything you need all in one place. Let me explain because I have some experience here. Anchor has tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. When hosting on Anchor, you can distribute your podcast on listening platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and more. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. And best of all, Anchor is totally free. Yeah, that's right. You heard me. Totally free to record, edit, and distribute your podcast. It doesn't get any better than that. So download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. I was so convinced, so sure that I was going to get on the horn and talk about some angle of romantic relationships. I haven't talked about romance, and people are always having this discussion, and I felt like I could throw my hat in the ring and give my spin on it. And then something happened at a gas station on Saturday in Cleveland, Ohio, that completely changed my mind, and I'm throwing that topic out of the window and talking about something else. I've got some explaining to do. Let's get into it. People. Whoa, people. I think that's a song by Patti LaBelle. Yeah, Patti LaBelle. Like when I'm singing it in my head, I hear Patti LaBelle's voice. Man, you could be so ready to talk about something, and then something happens, and it just sends your car in a different direction, child. Welcome to Ayana Explains It All, the podcast hosted by the big mouth, black lady, lawyer, Muslim, single mama, human being with an opinion on everything, trying to help the world make sense. You know when they say make it make sense? This is what I try to do. I try to make it make sense. I don't always succeed, but at least you walk away with maybe a laugh or a tear. If you haven't had a good cry that day that you listen to it, and then you listen to it and you walk away like, oh my God. It's fine to cry. It's fine to cry. It's fine to be angry. It's fine to be upset. It's fine to be any emotion you want to have. As long as it's for the right reasons, then it's fine. You know, there are times when you get angry and it's not for the right reasons or aimed at the right people. It's like it's not right. It's wasted. And so that's what my podcast is about. Trying to make things make sense. And I record in my dining room. I have just this today I made a makeshift booth, as my son said. Oh, look at you, your little booth. Like my kids are always clowning me. I love them, but they're always clowning me. It's fine. I'm very crafty. I could make something out of anything. Anything. I have a whole craft room and I'm really into miniatures and et cetera. And I can make anything out of anything. So every week I try to improve the sound. I try to improve equipment, et cetera, et cetera. Working on getting some new equipment, inshallah. So please share this podcast with your loved ones. Not the kids, though. This ain't really for the kids, except for that one episode that was, it was aimed at young people, but older people could relate to. I do swear. I swear. I do. I don't care. I do it in real life, too, so you'll know what you're getting if you ever meet me in person. But it's available on 12 different platforms, including YouTube, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor, Good Pods, Google Podcasts, on and on and on and on. You can find a link in the bio of my social media pages. On Facebook, I am Ayana Fakir, Ayana, F as in Frank, AKHIR. I always have to say that because people will write S, AKHIR, as in Sam. No, it's F as in farmer. And there's a link in my bio there. There's also a link in my Twitter. My personal Twitter is LAWGURRL. My Instagram for this podcast is Ayana Explains It All with an underscore between each word. I did that just to make my life difficult. And there's a link in the bio there. You can also go to my TikTok, and it's Ayana Explains It All Pod at TikTok. And there's a link tree in my bio there. You can see all of the available platforms and choose which one works the best for you. Like, share, subscribe. Here I go again. I've been practicing. My friend Zakia, my BFF Zakia, I told her the other day, I was like, there's some words that I just cannot pronounce without getting tripped up. And showering is one of those words, but subscribe is also one of those words. I say it as two words because if I try to say it as one word, I mean, I sound like a newborn baby. So, subscribe, like, rate, review, or dislike. Hey, you can dislike this too. I mean, because I tend to piss some people off. And if you don't like being pissed off when you listen to podcasts, well, I'm sorry. I don't know what to tell you. Go find something else. I hear Joe Rogan has a podcast. I hear Conan O'Brien has a podcast. You might like those better. But I'm here for your listening pleasure or displeasure, depending on how you feel about what I have to say and what I have to say today, ladies and gentlemen and people and persons. I am disgusted. I'm disgusted. I'm disgusted. I'm not disgusted every day. You know, I try to find joy every day, try to choose happiness every day. But people do test you. They try you. They test you. And sometimes they don't even know that they're testing you. Sometimes they're unaware. They're living on another planet where everything is okay, where they're flinging themselves all over the world, unaware of how they're affecting people. They lack self-awareness. So, I mentioned before how I grew up in the city of East Cleveland, Ohio, but I was born in Cleveland at a hospital in Cleveland, Ohio. And I live in a suburb that borders Cleveland, Ohio. So I'm always in Cleveland. Can't escape Cleveland. Although I did try. I did. And I'll try it again, damn it. The city of Cleveland, Ohio is the county seat of Cuyahoga County, Ohio, which is a Democrat-leaning region of Ohio. It's racially diverse, but it's also, since its inception, been one of the most racially segregated cities, major cities in the United States. Since its inception. It's 2022 and the city is still racially segregated. Despite integration, busing, Section 8 housing making people upwardly mobile, Blacks in city and county leadership, Black judges, prosecutors, police officers, firefighters, teachers, doctors, lawyers, engineers, educators, despite all of this, the city of Cleveland, Ohio, is still one of the most racially segregated big cities in the country. It is glaring. You notice it immediately. You'll be driving through the east side of Cleveland, wondering where the white people are. And you'll be driving through the west side of Cleveland, wondering where the black people are. It's been like that. It's always been like that. And despite their efforts to bridge the gap, to bridge these gaps, to bring people together, the only time they're together is when they're at maybe a Cavs game or a Browns football game downtown. The only place in Cleveland where you're going to see people of all races is downtown. You're not going to see it anywhere else. You know you're on the east side, and you know you're on the west side. You'll always know it. The difference will always be there. Black people consider the west side of Cleveland to be a sundown town. Like, there are parts of the west side of Cleveland and the western suburbs that black people will tell you you do not want to be in when the sun goes down. And maybe before the sun goes down too. You don't want to be there, period. You don't want to live there. You don't want to date anybody from there. You don't want your kids going to school there. You don't want to shop there. And you'll still do it. I mean, I do it. I was there on Saturday. I was there shopping. The west side of Cleveland is where the halal butcher shops are located. All of them are on the west side, because that's where all of the Arabs mostly reside. Of course, there are some on the east side, but there's such a large community of Arabs on the west side, and they built these shops for their people to use, where they would have halal meats. They have hairdressers, barber shops, they have bakeries, they have restaurants, they have all these things. And if you're like me, you're Muslim and you eat halal, or zabiha halal, whatever, that's where you're going to get your food. So yeah, I have to drive. It is a 30-minute drive on the freeway. And that's in light traffic for me to get all the way over there to get some meat. And when I buy meat for a month. I have to buy a large supply because, listen, I don't feel like fucking going over there all the time. I just don't. I don't. It's not welcoming. It's not friendly. It's not, the cost of gas has always been an issue for me. And the prices, honestly, are not the greatest. The prices for this meat, it's really expensive. It's expensive to eat halal. It really is. So if I'm going over there, it's because mama got a little bit of extra money. So I went there on Saturday to get some meat. Drove to the west side of Cleveland, get some meat. And I thought, okay, I'm going to stop at this grocery store that's down the street from the meat store because it's convenient. I can get my grocery shopping done, got my meat, got my groceries, got the other groceries and whatever, and I'll be fine. I could just go home and relax. There's maybe 2 or 3 black people in this store, and I'm one of the black people, and I'm also Muslim, and I'm also wearing hijab. So I stick out, okay? People are not friendly. Not at all. Absolutely not. Not even the cashiers are friendly. If you're in your own neighborhood around your own people are, they might give you a kind of like, ooh, what is that? They're going to smile at you. They're going to say hello. They're going to be friendly. I mean, this cashier was just like, here. When she gave me my receipt, she was like, here. I'm like, damn. Excuse me for being present. Right? People are just so nasty. Their attitudes are nasty. The way they treat you is nasty. And it's just because you dared to show up. You dared to be present in your black skin, in your black Muslim skin, in that thing you got on your head. The nastiness is so, I just, I don't even pray for these people because fuck them. Shit. No. Racism is oppression. I hate oppressors. But there's a a gas station. I also needed some gas, needed groceries and gas. There's a gas station at this grocery store. If you're familiar with Cleveland, Ohio, or Northeast Ohio, there's Giant Eagle and there's the Get Go gas station. You know, if you spend money in the grocery store, you have an Advantage card, you can save money off a gallon of gas. So I had 20 cents off a gallon of gas. I was like, okay, oh yeah, I'm going to go in there and get this 20 cents off. And I just go home and be fine. Well, I stopped at the Giant Eagle Get Go gas station. As I pull up, youngish, maybe, in her mid-30s, white lady. She had a kid in her car and just blaring this rap music. I didn't really make anything of it, except for nobody else was doing this, sir. Nobody else had their music blasting while they're pumping gas. So I get out, you know, get myself situated, open the hatch, pay for the gas, and I'm just standing there like, okay. And then all of a sudden I hear a sentence that stopped me dead. Like I don't know if I blacked out or if I just went into another dimension. Because as soon as I heard it, I was like, oh shit. It gave me pause. And it was coming from the song that this woman was blasting so that everyone could hear. And the sentence was, "'Cause I ain't black." And I said, oh no. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. What is this? What, did I go back in time? Did I go back into the 1950s? Am I on the west side of Cleveland in the 1950s and I'm about to be chased out of town or lynched from a tree in the woods? What's happening? What's happening? My heart rate immediately increased. Immediately. I thought, that can't be what I heard. And you know, I got Shazam on my phone, so let me Shazam this song. Let me listen to this. I also recorded it, okay? I made a little video. I tried not to show the woman's face in the video, but I'm going to post this to my social media and you'll see what I'm talking about. I tried my best not to show her, but I couldn't help it. But she goes into the store, I guess, I don't know, to get her change back from paying for gas or to get snacks or whatever the hell. And I'm like, let me record this. Let me Shazam it and record it. I'm listening to the words, trying to see if I can hear, you know, some other, because if somebody is saying, "'Cause I ain't black," there's some other racist shit about to come out of their mouths too. And I'm recording this and I'm like, what the fuck is this? I have never heard this song before. What is this? And what the rap artist is saying in the song is so disgustingly offensive and racist and unbelievably insensitive. And I can't even, it devalues Black people. It argues against our humanity. It's stunning. It's stunning. Number one, that somebody would make it. I mean, free speech, whatever the hell, do whatever you want. But people don't have to listen to it. This woman made the choice to not only listen to this song, but to get in her car with her child, blast this song in public where people could hear what she was listening to. She was trying to make a point. And I don't know why. You're teaching your child hate and racism. And I'll tell you why, because I'm going to read you some of the lyrics. I obviously cannot play the song on here because of copyright issues. But the words of this song, your child is going to learn this and they're going to repeat it to people. Your child is going to listen to this and think that it's okay to talk about Black people like this, think that it's okay to treat Black people like this, to think that it's okay that racism exists and that they can perpetuate it because this is what you have taught them. Now I'm going to post this video, like I said, on my social media. The name of the song is called Riot for Me, and it's by Burden, featuring someone named Mesus, Mesus. It was released in 2021. The music video itself is offensively grotesque. It's just disgusting. And here's a sample of the lyrics. What if I was on my knees and executed by police? What if I was being choked and they knew that I couldn't breathe? If I was in the cop car, I was killed in the back seat with hands cuffed and locked behind me. Y'all ain't losing any sleep. Ain't nobody about to riot for me, and that's a fact. Ain't no protests with signs for me, 'cause I ain't black. Now that's the line that I heard, 'cause I ain't black. Ain't no hashtags online for me or fighting back. Ain't nobody about to riot for me. Bet y'all don't riot for me. I tried to warn people, supplying the truth. If the victim was me, y'all wouldn't riot and loot. This is so exhausting. This is so exhausting. Way the new talkin'. It's like black folks only ones dead in coffins. Black on black ain't a tragedy, huh? Guess these news cameras ran out of batteries, huh? Live by the gun, die by the gun. When it happens in the hood, y'all ain't saying none. But soon as that trigger finger white, y'all be tearing shit up on the same night. Say I ain't right. Say I ain't white. Let's say that I'm black. Get pulled over, try to run away and scrap, reaching for the strap, but he get it first. So I slug him in the face at the same time that it burst. Now I'm just another reason to riot, a name on a shirt. When the truth is out, just got what I deserved. When you playing dumb games, then you winning a dumb prize. Then you're winning a dumb prizes. Less it's whites killing blacks. They don't give a fuck who dies. Here I am, my black ass on the west side of Cleveland, being subjected to this patently gross, indefensible rap song with lyrics that diminish my humanity, lie and exaggerate the truth to make a point that white people don't get the same attention as blacks when they're killed by police. Now listen. How do I put this gently? Oh, baby, if you want to be oppressed, we got plenty to give to you. We got decades. We got centuries of oppression. If you want to have it, because you want to win the gold medal in the oppression Olympics, you can have it. Go right on ahead. Go right on ahead. We'll give you all the shit that you've given us. We'll give it right the fuck back to you because you're so deserving of it. You poor thing. No one puts you on TV. A lie. Because as far as I can tell, every time a little black child or a black girl goes missing, the story gets buried. But if you see a white woman go missing, especially a pretty one, she's going to get CNN, ABC, NBC, CBS, Fox News, MSNBC. She's going to get all the coverage online. She's going to get the social media following. Gabby Petito. And I mean, that case was very sad, very sad. But that case had every fucking headline on every radio station, on every news station, every newspaper. People looking for her, wondering where she is, helping in the search. Strangers. speculating about this online and rushing to the different sites to help law enforcement with the search because they wanted to help find this young white woman. But you let that be a black girl or even a trans black woman, you won't have any idea that it happened. You won't see that story. You will not see that story. And the black girl would be treated as an endangered runaway or somebody who just decided to walk away. The girl will be treated as somebody who probably met someone online and just decided to walk away. You're not going to see our stories on national news. You're not going to see stories about Black and missing people on national news, but you will see the stories about white and missing and white and murdered on the news. You will see police rushing to solve the crime of a murdered white person before you will ever see it about a Black person. If a young white kid is murdered, police rally every single fucking authority they can find to help them. But if a Black child is murdered, oh, it's probably about drugs. It's probably about drugs. They're probably in a gang. Oh, we can't solve the crime because nobody will talk to us. On to the next. We have to fight to even get people to see victims as victims. Law enforcement isn't seeing us as victims. They're seeing us as participants. So your woe is me. If I were Black, they got what they deserve. You saying that a person deserves to be murdered by police for whatever excuse you can come up with is bullshit. Law enforcement is not supposed to kill people. I don't care what color you are. And by the way, yeah, they're killing white people too. They're killing white kids. They're killing Hispanic kids. They're killing Asian kids. They're killing African immigrant children, teenagers, women. They're killing people, but they're targeting Blacks. They're not targeting you. They're targeting us. That's the difference. That's the difference. We are targeted for police violence. We are targeted in our neighborhoods, in our homes, when we're out driving, when we're at stores. We are targeted for police violence. We are forced wherever we go to interact with the police and sometimes against our will because they target us. So you're lamenting about how it's unfair. Nobody wants to talk about my dead white ass. Just hold on. You hold the fuck on. It's coming, honey. Nobody's going to let your white death go unnoticed. Nobody's going to let your white dead ass murder go unnoticed. If you're missing, nobody's going to stop looking for you. In fact, they're going to have everyone looking for you. They're going to have the FBI on your case. They're going to make sure that people know that good white kids shouldn't die like this. In fact, they're going to call you a kid. They're going to call you a young man. They're going to call you a teen. But when you're Black, no matter how old you are, they look at you as a man. They call you a man. You could be 17 years old. And the headline will read, "A Black man was killed by police." Not a young college student dies accidentally at the hand of police. When white men go into churches and synagogues and grocery stores and to parades, and they commit these mass murders, you know what happens? Police find them and walk them out very gently in handcuffs. They make sure to capture these people alive. They won't fire not one fucking bullet. They make sure to capture these people alive. If you're black, you're dying. If you're black, you're going to die. If you're black, you're going to get your ass kicked. You're going to show up to your arraignment with a swollen face. If you even make it that far. We are targeted. White people aren't targeted for police violence. Black people are targeted for police violence. And for young black men, homicide, not just any kind of homicide, but law enforcement murder of young black men is their leading cause of death. So please, tell me again how unfair it is to you. What, do you not want us to notice that we're targeted for police violence and racism in housing, in the workplace, in our wages, in service at restaurants, in government contracts, in the military, in private business, hell, in the fucking PTO? You want us just to pretend like it doesn't exist. Pretend like it's not happening. Or maybe think, oh, well, it's probably happening to everyone. No, the fuck it is not happening to everyone. And I'm sorry that I had to be the one to finally break this to you. I know last week I explored some hard truths that people need to hear, and I only mentioned 7. There are actually hundreds. And this is one of them. White people benefit greatly in every facet of society from white privilege. It is bold. It is ugly. The temerity of white privilege is so glaring that you have to actively ignore it to not see it. You have to actively ignore it to not see it. Because this shit isn't passive. This shit isn't something that's, kind of hidden behind other things. Oh no, it's blatant. It's visible. It's glaring. You have to close your eyes and think about something else to not notice that you benefit from it, to not notice that it's being wielded against Black people, to not notice that you're exercising it. As John Greenberg wrote for everydayfeminism.com, he asked the question, what is white privilege? Him being a white man himself. White privilege is the reality that a white person's whiteness has come and continues to come with an array of benefits and advantages not shared by many people of color. It doesn't mean that I, as a white person, don't work hard. I do. Or that I haven't suffered. Well, I have known struggle. But simply that I receive help, often unacknowledged assistance, because I am white. And the lady at the gas pump and this rapper Burden, it's what they fail to realize is that they have help, often unacknowledged assistance, because they are white. They have benefits and advantages not shared by many people of color because they are white. But you're mad because you can't get a hashtag when police murder one of you. I saw a video today, actually, on Twitter, and it was out of Texas. So many of these stories come out of Texas. The chief of police had insisted that two of their officers, well, one specifically, had not struck or assaulted someone that they were arresting. That's the allegation that was being made, that he was assaulted by police. And the police chief insisted that it didn't happen, that his officers did not assault this person. And what happens? Well, the house that this happened in front of, just happened to have an outside camera. And what did it capture? It captured police assaulting this man. It captured a man whose hands were cuffed behind him, and the officer coming, hitting him in the face, striking his head on the ground, while his hands are cuffed, while he is subdued, can't move, can't go anywhere. The officer assaults him. And the man was white. The man is white. If you want to hashtag Mr. Burden, there you go. Find that man. Find that man. But I tell you what, he wasn't targeted because he's white. But we're targeted because we're black. Yeah, police kill white people. Absolutely. They're not supposed to kill anyone, but they target us. They're taught, they're trained to target us. When you are a pro-white rap artist, a pro-white person, you are acting blind. You're acting blind to what is happening around you, to the reality of what is happening around you. And the woman standing next to me at the gas pump blaring his song is obviously trying to send a message about what she believes to be true about black people. Both of them. That our lives don't matter. Our oppression does not matter. That we should excuse the hundreds of years of racism and racial segregation and American slavery and indignities and Jim Crow and civil rights violations. The daily murder of black people by police, black people, especially black men, being a target for police violence, being a target for gun crimes. We should ignore black people being victims of socioeconomic stagnation, black people having limited education opportunities, poor access to healthcare services, racism in healthcare, environmental racism, living in food deserts, and plain old-fashioned white racism. We should just ignore all of that. We should ignore it. Or better yet, it actually doesn't exist. It's actually not real. We made it up. We made it up. I'm sorry. It doesn't exist. It's not real. According to them. We should ignore all of the issues I cited, including mass incarceration. We should ignore it. Or better yet, because it really doesn't exist, pull ourselves out of this mental illness that we're in. Pull ourselves out of this delusion that we're in. Get over this stuff. Some of this stuff happened a long time ago. It's not happening anymore. Nobody's doing this anymore. You're imagining things. Get over it. Or the flip side, it's happening to everyone. This is happening to everybody. There's nothing unique about you because you're black. Except that it doesn't happen to everyone. This isn't happening to everyone. And I explored this on earlier podcast topics. Go back and listen to the episode on food deserts and the black maternal health crisis and the lack of protection for black women in American society and black men's health. I also talked about the pay disparity disproportionately affecting black women vis-a-vis white women and white men. I talked about wrongful convictions, including coerced confessions and the lack of accountability in the justice system for purposely putting Black people in prison for decades for crimes they did not commit. There's also gerrymandering that ensures Black voters do not have representatives that speak to our communities. The breakdown in voting protections that ensures Black voters have reduced access to voting locations, or that they're kicked off voting rolls altogether. So when they show up to vote, they're not registered to vote. Republicans in red states restrict voting by mail. They close polling stations. They restrict early voting. They restrict what you can do while you're waiting in line to vote. And besides that, I mean, that's huge. That's a lot. But look at police patrols in Black communities that target Black men and Black boys for stops. You fit the description. You fit the description. Well, apparently we all look alike because we all fit a description. Or when you go into a store, yes, this still happens. God, this still happens. You go into a store that maybe you, quote unquote, should not be in. And the security guard is following you around the store. Or the cashier is following you around the store. Or somebody asks to see what's in your bag before you leave the store because they think you might have stolen something. You're not believed. You're not trusted. Just because you're Black. So white people, I mean, if you want some of this, please take it. Take your fucking shit back. Take it all back. We don't want it anymore. It has destroyed us. It has destroyed our community. It has destroyed our mental health. It has put us in a crisis that we cannot climb out of no matter how hard we try. We had a Black president who has a Black wife and Black kids. And it still was not enough. We're always in a civil rights crisis. Always. We're always in a civil rights crisis. And as Mr. Greenberg notes, and I agree, white people have the privilege of having, generally speaking, a positive relationship with law enforcement. You have the privilege of being favored by school authorities. You have the privilege of being favored by charitable giving. I added that one. You have the privilege of attending racially segregated, affluent schools. You have the privilege of learning about your race in school, your history washed and cleansed to make it palatable. Have you seen this now? All of this legislation that's being introduced and some passed in states across this country where legislators want to teach both sides of the Civil War, teach both sides of the Holocaust. You cannot both sides something where one side is illegitimate and the other is the victim of their oppression. They don't have an argument. They don't have a side. The other side of the Civil War was the Union breaking up to preserve slavery. The other side of the Civil War was Blacks remaining as slaves in the United States. And people will say, oh, but that's not really what the Civil War was about. The Civil War was actually a military strategy, and it was about money, and really shut up. Because what it comes down to, if that war wasn't fought, I wouldn't be able to sit here and bring you this news and information that you need to know. I am the descendant of slaves, the direct descendant of American slaves. Oh, and they're slave owners. Yeah, they were getting their rape on. And am I angry? Oh, I am angry. I am angry. I am angry. Because white people have the privilege. You have the privilege of so many things. You have the privilege of so many things, and still it is not enough for you. You want more. You have everything. Even when it comes to issues of drug abuse, white people are treated better in the news media and by the government when it comes to fucking drug abuse. You have privileges. You have no idea. And you're crying. You're going on and on and on about how unfair it is that people don't want to be oppressed, that they realize they're being oppressed and they want something done about it. Yeah, but what about me? What if I get murdered? What if you do? One less racist. Mr. Burden, Mr. Pro-white people. White people have the privilege of learning about their race in school. White people have the privilege of going into libraries, school libraries, public libraries, and finding books for their children that represent overwhelmingly their race. Your children's school, white people, have the privilege of having sports teams of a wide spectrum, from field hockey to ice hockey. You go into a black school, there's basketball, football, and track. You have the privilege of consuming media, magazines, newspapers, social media sites, TV news programs, TV shows with a bias that favors your race. You have the privilege of escaping violent stereotypes associated with your race. You have the privilege of being colorblind and wiping the slate clean of your history of racism. You don't see color. You couldn't possibly be racist because you don't see color. You have the privilege of being insulated from the daily indignities, the daily toll of racism. You have the privilege of living ignorant of the dire state of racism today. We, black people, Mr. Burden and Lady Pumping Your Gas, we are not fabricating the hate we received. We are not fabricating the injustices heaped upon us. We are not fantasizing about being oppressed in this country. Who fucking fantasizes about being oppressed? It is real. It is real. And we have been fighting decades to climb out of this hole we did not create for ourselves. And every time we get a little bit out of that hole, to show our heads out of that hole, some boot comes along and pushes us back down. We are not fantasizing about being oppressed in this country post-slavery, post-Jim Crow, and post-Civil Rights Act. If you want us to break you off a piece of this oppression that weighs us down, that pushes us back into that hole, we'd be happy to give you some. If you want some, you can have it. Oh, but you should want for your brothers and sisters what you want for yourself. So I don't want oppression for anybody. That's what that man should have rapped about. I don't want anybody to be oppressed. It's unfair that anyone is oppressed. Not, yeah, why am I not oppressed too? I want to be oppressed. You get what you deserve if you get murdered by police. Not, oh, it's really awful that is happening. It's terrible that they're targeting you all for violence. That's not right. It shouldn't happen. I'm going to do something about it. You're welcome to take it, but if you want it, take it. Just like you take all our other shit. You appropriate many aspects of our cultures and gentrify our communities for your economic development and gain, and then tell us to get out of here. Move, leave. We don't want you here. You can't afford it now anyway. You rewrite history books to remove references to slavery and segregation. You both sides America's demon past. You're upset that we want to know what you did, because if we know, then we hold you accountable. And if we hold you accountable, then you have to change your behavior and you have to atone for what you did. You have to return what was stolen from us. They buried that Tulsa Black Wall Street massacre because they didn't want to have to be responsible for what happened. They didn't want to be responsible for what they took from Black people in Tulsa, Oklahoma. They buried it. A lot of people coming out now, oh, I didn't know that happened. Tom Hanks, well, I had never heard about that in school. Well, why the fuck would you have? You went to a school where they should have talked about massacres of Black people? So you're, oh, I didn't know, they didn't want us to know this. No, they didn't want you to know it happened, because if you know, then you hold them accountable. And what does that mean? They have to atone for it. And what does that mean? Not just an apology. Oh no, they have to come up out them pockets, because there are living victims. There are descendants of victims. They're still finding bones from victims of this massacre, still identifying bones of victims of this massacre. Because when we know, we hold you accountable. And being accountable means you have to pay. And hey, that's with anything. That's with anything bad that you do. When you're held accountable, that means you have to pay. You should want to pay. You should want to right every wrong. You should want to right the wrongs of the past, so that we can finally breathe freely and not have to worry about, is the government going to apologize to Blacks for slavery? When are we going to get our reparations? When are they going to give us our land back? Did you guys see the story out of Los Angeles, California, where the Los Angeles County Board of Supervisors voted to return ownership of prime California beach property to descendants of a Black couple who built a resort for African Americans, but were stripped of the land in the 1920s because they were Black, because the white people didn't like them having that property. And so they just took it from them. And in 2022, almost 100 fucking years later, their descendants get the property back. And you might say, oh, well, what does it matter at this point? It fucking matters. It matters that we are returned every bit of land, of artwork, of music, of ideas that were stolen from us because of the color of our skin. For no other reason than we are Black. It matters. You don't have the privilege that we had, and that is the privilege of being thought of as uneducated, a token admit, a token hire, single mom, child who grew up with no dad, a mammy belle, nappy-headed, welfare queen. You don't want that privilege. We have a privilege. Black men and women, Black children, We have the privilege of enduring racist and classist stereotypes at every step on our ladder to success. And then after we achieve success, we are denigrated and questioned about our backgrounds, childhoods, sex lives, bank accounts, credit scores, our private parts, our hair, our nails, our houses, who lives in our house, who we're dating. No one is inquiring about your socioeconomics status and background when you're at the top, but they question the fuck out of ours. Oh, let's hear your hard luck story. I bet you came from a single parent household. It's so bad that Black people, especially Black men, have bought into the narrative of there being no father in the home. Now, this is a narrative that was pushed by Hollywood, by TV shows, because it's not fucking true. But because we see it and hear it so much, we hear it and see it so much that we think this is true. So let us push back by showing it's not true. So there are all these social media posts all the time about Black fathers do exist. Black fathers do care about their kids. And there are these events at some schools where they have the Black fathers walk their kids to school. Because people say that Black fathers aren't present in the home. You bought it. You believed it. White men disappear from homes all the time, too. White men go to the corner store for milk and don't fucking come back, too. You don't see them having to push back against a narrative that they're not present in their homes for their children. We have to push back and present positive examples. We don't owe them a thing. We don't owe them anything because of the lies they sold. We have to owe them the truth, the reality of it. We don't owe them anything. When I grew up, and I grew up in a densely Black neighborhood, kids had fathers. Fathers were either in the home, married to the moms, or they lived close by. But these kids had dads, and they saw their dads, and they spent time with their dads. Not everybody had a perfect relationship because, hey, we're not perfect people. But on the street that I grew up on, every household had a father in the house. But this narrative that Black fathers are not present in the home, who that's pushed by? The media fuels that. Because first of all, they love saying that Black women are the highest number of, well, they love saying that Black women are welfare queens. And if you're on welfare, if you're on cash assistance, then there's no man in the home, right? And so if we're saying that most Black women are poor and on welfare, then that means no man is in the home, then that means no father is present. So, boop, there you go. Black fathers aren't present in the home. Let's push that narrative. Let's put that in the TVs and in the TV shows and the movies. Let's tell them that. They'll believe it. And if we say it enough, then they'll believe it. If we say it enough, then Black people will start to believe it. When in reality, white people are the highest of recipients of government assistance. There you go. There's your oppression. There's your oppression right there. But you don't highlight that. You don't say how unfair it is that white people are on welfare more than any other race. But you go talk about that. Put that in one of your little raps. You have the privilege, white people, of having your white life matter so much that when we bring up your wrongs, your state government passes legislation to silence us. The government will pass legislation. Florida, I'm looking at you. Tennessee, I'm looking at you. Texas, I'm looking at you. The government passes legislation to remove references to the shit that white people did from school textbooks, bans teachers from talking about these things in school. Ohio is currently mulling one of these laws. When your babies are in danger of running low on infant formula, the government steps in, races to fix the problem for you. Black women have been in a maternal health crisis that is now an epidemic for years. No one gives a fuck. Until last year, I think somebody finally decided to study it. You have a privilege. You have so much privilege that society doesn't hear our voice. Says it's not that we're not raising our voices at other times, but society isn't hearing our voices until one of us is murdered by police. Now you sit and think about that. We are not thought of until police murders one of us. Then Black Lives Matter. When the injustice is not just that law enforcement targets. When the injustice is not just that law enforcement targets us for violence, but that there are injustices everywhere. But no one is listening to us until one of us is murdered by police. Because that bloodlust that Americans love, oh, well, it's heightened when it's coming from the body of a dead Black person. One of my most cherished abilities about myself is not just that I can speak well, but that I am discerning and a good observer of human behavior. I know the language and the passive-aggressive behavior people use when they're trying to undermine me or you. I know what actions people are going to take when they feel powerless. They come out swinging, even at the wrong people. I collect data about people in my head. I collect data on human behavior by putting myself in spaces you wouldn't normally see someone like me. I interact with people that you wouldn't expect someone like me to interact with. I go to the west side of Cleveland to shop and put myself around people I wouldn't normally be around. So I know exactly how white people are going to proceed when they lose, when they feel slighted or powerless. They're going to flex their white privilege to get their way in a situation, at a store, in a classroom, at work, while standing in line, when it's time to hand out bonuses or promotions, in the PTO, when their sports team loses a match to some Black kids, a match that they were expected to win. They're going to flex their white privilege to challenge the results and have them overturned in their favor. That's what you do. That's what you did. I speak from experience. I know you people very well. In college, I held down 2 jobs every semester in a full course load. I worked really hard. In my senior year, I was manager of the student center, a job that I took seriously because besides the bookstore and other touristy things, the student center was a hub for the school. It's the place you went when you needed directions around campus or to get a quick bite to eat, to chill between classes or relax on a Saturday and watch cable TV. My job was manager. My name badge had my name. I had a ring of 1,000 keys, looked like a custodian, and sometimes I was. I had a walkie-talkie. I walked around the building, answered questions, handled problems, so people knew who I was. And when tourists came into the building and something was wrong or something was going wrong or they needed more assistance than the person at the information desk could supply, I also worked at the information desk. But they would turn to one of the managers. And something about Notre Dame is that In case you didn't know, it's a pretty big football school. And when I was there, now this was in the story I'm going to tell you was in the year 1999. Every Saturday, if there was a home game that was being televised, or if there was a game at all of Notre Dame's that was being televised, the large screen, like this huge ass TV in the main room, had to be turned to the channel that the game was on. One day, it was 2 o'clock. It always had to be tuned to the channel at 2 o'clock. One Saturday, it's 2 o'clock. I go over to the TV to change the channel. And immediately, this elderly white man gets up and starts yelling at me. Now, again, my name tag says manager, student manager on it. Manager. I had all the keys in the walkie-talkie with me. If it's on a Saturday, I'm the only one in the building when I'm on duty to handle problems. During the week, there was another manager, but I was the only one on duty to handle problems. But I was also the one responsible for turning the channel. He got up, got in my face, and yelled at me. "Hey, I was watching that. Why did you turn the channel? How dare you?" And I said, "Sir," because it's also posted on the TV. It was also posted on the TV, a sign that says, on Saturdays at 2 o'clock, the TV is tuned to whatever channel it was for Notre Dame home football games. Or something to that effect. Please. I'm old. This happened a long time ago. But there was a sign that said that. We made sure people knew that that is what was going to happen. So if you were sitting there watching, like, I don't know, Looney Tunes or some shit, the TV had to be turned and you were going to watch football whether you wanted to or not. And this man got up because he apparently had no interest in watching the game. I don't know. And he got in my face. "Hey, I was watching that." And I said, "Sir, the sign right here says it." I said, "Sir, I'm the manager. Every Saturday, this TV has to be tuned to the Notre Dame football game." He didn't believe me. He did not believe me. So what does he do? Rushes over to the information desk where a white man was on duty and complained to the white man on duty about me, this lady. I still remember how he said it. "This lady turned the channel." And I just stood there. I stood there and I looked at him and I said, "Sir, I'm the manager. The TV has to be turned at this time for the Notre Dame football game." And the other guy looked at him and said, "She's the manager. I can't help you." And with a huff and a puff, he stormed over, collected his shit, and he left. And I said, "Good, I'm so sick of these people." Because let me tell you, this is not the only time I've had to deal with this shit. I was so sick. So sick. I tired. So when I tell you I know what the fuck I'm talking about, I know what I'm talking about. Because I've been dealing with this for a long time. And I've been reading about it, and I've been observing, and I've been collecting data. So I know exactly what you people are capable of, what you're going to complain about, what you're going to do to make sure you get what you want. You're not going to play fair because white privilege is not fair. It is unfair. It is an injustice. And you may feel good about having it, about having that little advantage over other racial minorities. about having that advantage over Blacks and Hispanics and Asians. You may love having that little advantage because it brings you comfort. It brings you money too. Makes your life easier. It ensures that you're going to get the protection of law enforcement and benefits from the government, and you're going to enjoy the best of things in society, the best table at the best restaurants, the best schools for your kids, job opportunities other people can't imagine, educational opportunities other people can't imagine. Do you know there's a fucking ski club at my kids' junior high school? Junior high school, there's a ski club. There was no ski club. Was growing up. At a Black school, a ski club in East Cleveland, Ohio? For what? And it's always, I'm talking to you about this now because I have my own platform. I have my podcast and I can sit here and do this. But when you're actually trying to talk to a white person about white privilege, it gets really awkward and they get defensive because then they have to deal with the racism that breeds white privilege. They don't want to deal with it. They don't want to hear it. You call them racist, they tune you out. They become immediately defensive. And I don't see color. What do you mean I'm racist? I don't have a racist bone in my body. So when we try to talk to them about it, it's difficult. When we try to talk to white people about this stuff, it's difficult. If I had gone over to that lady and tapped her on the shoulder and said, "Hey, you know what? That song is racist, and you playing that for the public and for your child is problematic. I'd love to understand why you feel that this is a good message to send to people." I probably would have gotten gasoline squirted in my face. Or even worse, Ohio's a stand your ground state. Maybe you would have got, a slug to the chest. You cannot talk to white people about white privilege because they're so fragile. Their egos are so fragile. And why? You know why? Because they haven't dealt with this shit. Once you deal with this, once you atone for it, take responsibility for it, do something about it, right these wrongs, recognize this problem and do something about it, then slowly it starts to become less of a problem, less of an issue, and you don't have to talk about it anymore. When you refuse to recognize it and do something about it, it is always going to be there. This is not going to go away. This conversation is not going to go away. This issue is not going to go away. This problem is not going to go away. Black people are not going to go away. So you are going to have to deal with this sooner or later. Being so highly regarded in society that you cannot even recognize when others are suffering is a privilege, and it is a uniquely white one. What are you going to do about it? What are you going to do about it? And this has been Ayana Explains It All, brought to you by facts, figures, and enlightenment. Take care.